She had to make a copy.
We're good to go. All right, thank you. We'll wait for Vanessa to be back. So I was wrong.
She just went to Xerox. My apologies to everybody here. I kept you waiting, and I'm sorry I did that.
Got my prop budget here. All pages of this right there. 487 pages.
How many words did you have last?
437. DA has a number of new funds, ARP,
Right.
affordable housing,
Right.
and I want to say that there's just some other things that I did that formatted a little bit differently. Well, ARP actually is all in contingency right now. Because we haven't decided that. The only thing that we're doing in the budget is $647,000, I think, transferring back to general fund. Yeah.
It's been a while. Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've seen Tony. But you know what? He's on my Christmas card list. So he'll get a Christmas card. Out in Emporium, Pennsylvania. Yeah. What a nice man. What a very, very
I
nice man.
texted him a couple times, but he's been busy. You know.
He's on a different board now.
Yeah.
And
He's on probation, or
that's it.
probation.
Probation and parole.
Yeah.
And you know who used to be on that was Pat Mangino. Pat Mangino used to be on that board.
What's up, Rich?
I don't know. I'm assuming Tony still lives in Emporium.
Yeah.
And commutes to Harrisburg when he has to go down.
Yeah, like I said, it's been probably 8 months since I talked to him.
Yeah, what a gentleman. I'll tell you, he's a very nice guy.
I think a couple years ago, I'll be next time I'll go up there.
Yeah.
Call him and see. But yeah, I would.
It's always the HRA.
Yeah, that's a year.
It's a game of control. And we would always check.
I was worried about the
You know, he
HRA.
used to be a county commissioner.
Yeah.
And that's where we first got acquainted.
Yeah.
And then he got appointed to that board, and I would see him. We always have the nicest chats.
Yeah.
So if you're talking to him, please give him my best.
Yeah, if you talk to him, say, don't forget your cousin.
There she is.
Oh, there she is.
Sorry, the coffee I went over.
No, you're good. All right, I will call this December 7th, 2021 meeting of Lawrence County Board of Commissioners to order. Would all please rise for the pledge of allegiance, followed by a brief moment of silence. Mike, would you lead us to the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And all please remain standing for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Here.
Commissioner Vogler?
Here.
Commissioner Boyd?
Here. We have a quorum. Mike, right?
Yeah.
I'm horrible. I'm so bad with names. I will note that we are being live streamed right now. It's being sent out to the county's YouTube channel for public consumption. We're also being recorded internally for our purposes in compiling the minutes. And to that end, if anyone here has business before the board, we ask that you come up and speak into that microphone there just so that we can pick it up. I'll also note that if anybody has public comment today, we ask that you keep your issues, those issues related to county government. If you want a road paved, I'd advise you reach out to PennDOT or your municipal officials. If you've got questions on a federal bill that's going through, I'd recommend you reach out to Representative Kelly, Senator Casey, or Senator Toomey. And if there's that state level issue that you might be having, we recommend you reach out to the appropriate state authorities. Moving on, row officer reports and comments. We have any row officers in the audience today? I see Treasurer Rapone back there. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm very well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you have anything to report about me on what's already on the agenda?
Yes, I provided you with the report.
Come on up.
Yes, thank you.
Approach the bench.
Approach the bench. Okay, good morning. Good morning. I'm happy to submit the November 2021 Lawrence County Treasurer's Report. Treasurer's Office collected a total of $427,151.81 during the month of November. Total year-to-date collections is $27.6 million. We started off with 51,687 parcels for the county tax statements, along with the spring interim bills and the fall interim bills. That's a total of 53,502 parcels collectible. To date, we have collected 46,352 parcels, which equates to approximately 90% of 2021 tax revenue has been collected thus far. Back in October, we mailed out 7,756 tax reminder postcards, which was good. The year before, we had mailed out 8,823. So people settled their tax bills a little sooner this year, which is great. So we're thanking for that as well. As you can see with November's collections, we got a good response to using the postcard reminders. So that's where we are. The total debit tags that were sold so far is 9,620. And as of December 1st, the 2022 dog license are now able to be purchased. And we are currently working on the 2022 tax bill, and tax outreach is all being scheduled, and everything's ready to go.
And you're aware we have on the agenda today the set of the millage.
Yes, I do.
So hopefully that helps you out.
Once that that's approved and I have a resolution, that'll be helpful as well.
Yeah, that's
in
gonna
the
be,
process.
that'll be approved, yeah, today, we'll get that over to you, and then you can start on your end getting this thing, getting it ready.
Any questions?
Just a quick question, and if you'd be maybe willing to do it, actually in the future, just for my benefit.
Sure.
You know, one of the things that our tax revenues for real estate tax go three different directions. One comes to the general fund, one goes to the federated library system, and one goes to our debt service fund. Just for, this would be helpful to me specifically, if you consider maybe incorporating in the future reports,
Sure.
breaking that down.
Sure.
Because, you know, I look at the $30,515,108.83 number, and I immediately think, you know, that's all being pumped in.
Right.
That's just, because you don't think of the library, you don't think of debt service that
That's a
often.
good idea, because when we see it in units, it does break it down. So
Okay.
we're able to provide
Great.
that for you, not an issue.
Yeah, thank you, that'd be great.
Absolutely. You got it.
Any questions or comments for the treasurer? Just thank you.
Well done, thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas, Rich.
Merry Christmas.
Do we have any other row officer or row officer representatives in the audience today who have anything to add above and beyond what's already on the agenda? Around, I'm seeing none. We will move on to public comments. Is there any member of the public with us today who wishes to make comment? That's approach the bench. And if you would be able to, you may have already written down, but if you'd be able to just give us your names and addresses for our purposes of compiling minutes.
Thank you. My name is Justin Mason. I am a resident of Erie County, 3395 Riker Road, Erie, Pennsylvania, 16509. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Lawrence County Commissioners Board. My name is Justin Mason. I am the field director of the Pennsylvania Land and Liberty Coalition. I am a rural Appalachian resident of Western Pennsylvania, and in my free time, I choose to recreate down here at the Mines and Meadows off-road facility in Lawrence County. Pennsylvania Land and Liberty Coalition works with rural Appalachian residents of Pennsylvania to inform them of the benefits of solar and the need for an energy transition to more renewable sources in consideration of the Pennsylvania energy market. PA centrality in the Pjm Marketplace also means that the energy systems that we build here in the Commonwealth drives income and productivity for all of us. Wind and solar projects are only decommissioned or repowered every 1 to 2 decades, while other generation sources are creating waste every single day they operate. Many counties protect their landowners by requiring wind or solar project owners to cover costs and responsibly decommission a project at the end of its useful term. These terms often vary from 25 to 40 years. Landowners can be protected by holding a project owner accountable and ensuring the responsible removal of turbines or panels by way of common sense decommissioning policy outlined in a county's ordinances. The way to more energy diversity in Pennsylvania is through educating rural residents about the benefits for their communities. These projects will provide taxable income for townships throughout PA to benefit the funding for roads, schools, and emergency management services. As coal continues to be drawn down in PA, new sources will be needed to keep our pace with our exports and our statewide use alike. PA utility scale and community scale solar and rooftop arrays will help ensure energy independence for all of us. It'll help keep utility rates affordable, provide vast economic benefit, and help to preserve property rights. There are no greater benefit than the benefit for farmers. That's why building more renewable capacity here in Western Pennsylvania makes sense. And that's why solar is such an important part of that capacity. Solar projects hosted here on agricultural properties will provide a means for a new passive income to help keep PA's farms legacy and family owned. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Also, that just is on top of the solar, we've been approached over the course of the last year by a number of firms and companies wishing to deploy solar, basically in different parts of Lawrence County.
Right.
And I will say in partnership and largely in subordinate to the municipalities. In other words, they sort of take a prime position, we take a secondary position of assisting them however they might need ordinance construction or zoning services or anything like that. Our planning office has always been and remains willing to help them out, as well as our assessment office, however they might need our assistance. So, any development that comes into Lawrence County, as it relates to solar or other, our wonderful folks here in planning and assessment predominantly have been working with some of those firms to see what we can do for them.
Excellent, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you guys. Dan, you have a comment?
Yes, although maybe I should wait until you're finished. You two are both together, is that correct?
Yes.
Separate organizations.
We're kind of two sides of a coin. Yeah, I'll explain that.
I'll wait till
Yeah.
this gentleman's
okay.
finished.
Interesting, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, well, there we go. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Chad Forsey, and I am the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Conservative Energy Forum. So I'll address the organizations first. So our organization was founded in 2018, and we were founded by a group of Pennsylvania leaders from both public policy as well as the business community who wanted to have a voice for all of the above on energy on the right. So while we identify as conservatives, we work with Republicans and Democrats. In fact, we have Republicans and Democrats alike who support our organization. Justin's out of Erie, PA, as he mentioned. I'm out of Harrisburg, so I'll give my address as well. My address is 2102 Mayfred Lane, Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, 17011, right across the river from Harrisburg. So briefly, my background, I started out in Pennsylvania working for Tom Ridge and Mark Schweiker when Governor Ridge was with us, and then through the transition after the 9/11 attacks and worked for Governor Schweiker for a time. And ultimately worked on environmental policy and administration. After that, I was hired by a couple different agricultural organizations to work for agricultural public policy issues, both in Pennsylvania and nationally. One was the Landscape and Nursery Association, the other was the Irrigation Association. In 2018, I was approached by a group of folks, including our former Lieutenant Governor Jim Colley from the Corbett administration, Jim Seif, who was Tom Ridge's environmental secretary and a former PPL executive. A number of other folks. One name I would mention is John Lehman, who was the U.S. Navy Secretary under Ronald Reagan and also a member of the 9/11 Commission. And the one thing that these folks had in common, there's a number of folks also from the energy industries represented and as founders. And what they had in common was a desire for conservatives to be able to speak the language of renewable energy, as well as they could speak the language of natural gas and nuclear, et cetera. So that all of the above was the overarching strategy there. We wanted to be able to promote energy across the board in Pennsylvania, believing that a diversified energy system was best for the state. And to that end, we have gotten involved first in Harrisburg, where we work on legislation. We have supported bills such as the CPACE. If you're familiar with that bill, which was frankly the first renewable energy bill that was introduced by Republicans as chief sponsors in both the House and Senate, and then passed with overwhelming numbers. And that was the first evidence of our entry into the public policy arena. We're working towards a bill right now called Community Solar, also a chief sponsored by a couple of Republicans in the House and Senate. That bill would open up new markets, and Penn State has done a study which tells us that it would bring about $2 billion of private sector investments into the Commonwealth in the solar space. And that bill creates a new market because it would allow for multiple parties to site a single project on a single property, but own it jointly, which is not allowed under current PUC code. So it's things like that we are focusing on. We're trying to help
open up the markets, increase competition and diversity in the energy space. And in places like Western PA, we have seen a lot of interest in solar, as was mentioned earlier. And what we've found, and we hear from farmers and we hear from energy companies alike, that they want more of a voice to come into communities with people like Justin, who's out of Erie, as I mentioned, and has worked in the industry, in the solar industry, and myself, to come in and explain how solar can benefit communities. And so that's what we do. That's why we're here today, ultimately. So I wanted to hit on a couple of points. I'll be brief. I have remarks, but I'm not going to read all of them. I've talked about PennSef, why we were founded, and we founded the Land and Liberty Coalition earlier this year because while I tend to be focused on Harrisburg policy, we wanted somebody in the field, particularly in Western PA, who could focus on local government relations and efforts. And too often, the Commonwealth will propose and pass something that either appropriates a lot of money, the federal government does this too, or opens up new markets through legislation. But townships will get a proposal for a solar project and they'll vote it down. And so the state and the federal government can do all that they want, but if local governments aren't supportive of expansion and diversification in the energy space, then it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen ultimately. So we're trying to change that, and that's why Justin's here. That's why I'm here. The Commonwealth leads the nation in domestically produced energy exports. Just want to state that up front. We are the #1 electricity exporter in the United States. And we sit at the center of what's called the Pjm Marketplace. A lot of people don't understand this, but some do. PJM stands for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland, but it encompasses many more states than that. And Pennsylvania is uniquely positioned to export electricity because of its access to natural gas, because of its access to nuclear, and even the remaining coal generation markets. And now with renewables coming online, we see that there's great potential to increase those exports to the rest of the nation. We're exporting as far west as Indiana, as far south as North Carolina, as far north as Maine. A lot of people don't know that. So when we come into a small community, people will say, why do we need solar? And that's really the answer. It's an economic driver for communities, particularly again as coal draws down, which is happening not because of the government, but because of competition. Natural gas and its generation in PA is what's driving down the coal market in PA. So we want to try to create more opportunities, and we work with natural gas companies that are actually diversifying into solar. So we see that instead of pitting these industries against each other, a rising tide ought to lift all the boats. So that's kind of how we're coming at the issue. So I want to talk specifically about agriculture. As we emerge from the ravages of the pandemic, the need for economic recovery for our farms is really important. Pennsylvania farms have suffered greatly. Millions of gallons of milk were dumped due to the breakdown of supply lines. Dairy farms bore the brunt of the crisis, but farms in every major commodity across PA have been eligible for emergency federal assistance, totaling at this point more than $250 million since early 2020. Farmers overwhelmingly seek to diversify their profits and productivity. And when they look at solar, they find out that they can actually grow soybeans, pollinator-friendly crops. They can put beehives and even raise livestock underneath solar panels. So there are ways of diversifying without losing the productivity of the land. I'm going to quote the Farm Bureau because they recently testified on this issue. Broadly speaking, the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau is supportive of solar energy. Our energy platform embraces an all-of-the-above approach that makes our country less dependent on foreign energy sources. It also acknowledges that landowners are in the best position to determine how to use their land for energy development, whether it's natural gas leasing, wind energy, or solar. Solar is already used on farms, typically by farmers who want to use renewable energy to supplement energy usage. And there are more than 4,100 farms that use some form of renewable energy as part of their business, with solar leading the way. Nearly all the solar installed on Pennsylvania farms is for on-farm energy generation. However, given the level of activity that we've seen with leasing and with the governor's recent proposal to power state buildings with renewable energy, we anticipate that a larger portion of farmland will be converted to solar use. Unlike other development of farmland, it's really important, and I'll probably close with this. Unlike other development of farmland, these systems are not permanent. They're designed to be removable so that decades in the future, a farmer could grow crops or graze animals on the land, and that's end quote. So I close with that because it's important, and this is what when we talked to townships, and we met with the County Conservation District just last week here in Lawrence County, had a great conversation with those guys. What we remind folks when they ask us about why solar on farms is that if farmers aren't allowed to invest in solar on the farm, chances are they will talk to the next guy who shows up who's a developer who would like to build real estate on those farms. And the reality is from a revenue standpoint, it's all good, right? The problem is that when you put up real estate subdivision on that land, you do lose the farmland. It's not coming back. Solar, on the other hand, is temporary and provides fantastic revenue, both for the local government and for the farmer. And the long term, we think that this is a real viable solution to some of the struggles that we have in our agricultural space right now. So that's my talking points for the morning. Thank you so much for allowing us to come and present today. And if anybody has any questions, be happy to take them.
I'll chirp in with a couple more things and turn it back over to my colleagues. First and foremost, I also want, you mentioned the CPACE program.
Yeah.
And through the leadership of J.R. Hardster, who's sitting right there, he's our chief assessor. I want to say Lawrence County will be the third county to opt into that program statewide.
Excellent.
And so we're proud of that. Other thing I want to mention, because you mentioned a number of different state initiatives.
Yeah.
I'm not, but both my colleagues are on the CCAP board, County Commissioner Association of Pennsylvania board. Loretta's the Secretary Treasurer for the organization, and Dan is the Region 2 representative, which encompasses it's southwest Pennsylvania. And so, I would also refer you to that. If you're going around to the counties, I think that's phenomenal. I'd also refer you to potentially have a conversation with CCAP has a board specifically. If you haven't already.
I just joined.
Oh, congratulations!
Awesome.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
It might be worth it to reach out. I believe there's an environmental committee through CCAP. I'm on the economic development and community development board as well as actually agriculture in terms of committee. But it may be worth your while to reach out to those institutions as well, because they're really our lobbying arm at the state level if you're looking to push state initiatives.
Yeah.
Other thing I want to note is, I don't know a whole hell of a lot about energy. My colleague here used to be in the energy industry. Dan was actually the chief lobbyist for Penn Power before he became a county commissioner. And so he's someone who is an expert in that industry, just 3 years of experience gained in the private sector. Only other thing I'll mention before turning it over to my colleagues for anything they might want to comment on is, since this board came on board back in January of 2020, we've been very strong supporters of our agriculture industry in Lawrence County. And that's a tradition that's not just been through this board, but it's gone back previous boards as well. One of the things we're doing today actually is introducing our 2022 county budget. And I do want to note that in that budget, for our agricultural program, we actually included an 8.46% increase in funding for our various ag programs, whether that be Penn State Extension, our conservation district, black fly and other environmental controls, and our allocation to agricultural preservation in Lawrence County. And that specific allocation is, I believe, the highest it's ever been in county history that we're making this year. And so we will continue to make investments in ag. We're going to continue to support that community. And I'll close just by saying thank you guys both for coming in. Speaking for myself, I agree with you that energy diversification is a very good thing for the Commonwealth. It's a good thing for Lawrence County, and it's the way of the future. And we're happy to participate any way we can.
All right, appreciate that. Thank you.
And also to just add to that, that there is, working with the agricultural community, that the last couple of years have been more of a struggle than before. And for myself, and speaking with, individual landowners that with their farms, that they are looking to diversify because it has been so difficult. And some that may not have looked into solar before are looking at it now because it's like you said, nobody wants to see the development on their farms, but now maybe having a solar panel for amount of time on there doesn't seem as unappetizing as it did before these last couple of years. So thank you so much for everything that you do, and thank you for coming here. Thank you both of you. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I walked in this morning and I thought, those two fellows look familiar. And I owe you an apology because you were at the conservation meeting last week, and you may have noticed I came in about an hour late. You were sitting down at the end of the table. You were in deep conversation with some folks, including Luke Vogel.
Yeah.
And we had another commitment that caused me to arrive late at the meeting. And so
And for Dan, and Dan's defense, he's never late. He's always there at the meetings on time, so it was
yeah, we
time
tried.
that he'd be at the other, yes.
So as I said, I walked in here and said, I've seen these fellows
Oh, wow.
before, and I felt bad that I did have to miss your presentation last week. So I'm glad I got to hear it today. And I thank you both, because obviously you had about an hour and a half drive to come down here, and for you it's about 4.5 hours from Camp Hill. And when you gave us your background, I thought to myself, as Commissioner Boyd mentioned, I was director of governmental affairs for Penn Power, not PP&L.
Okay.
But Penn Power, which at the time was headquartered here in Newcastle, was
Okay.
a subsidiary of Ohio Edison, which has morphed into First Energy.
Okay.
And I was their registered lobbyist, and for about 15, 16 years, from the mid-'80s to about 2000. I'm betting that probably at some point, we probably crossed paths in the Capitol building. We probably walked right past each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And you mentioned some names. I didn't hear Dave Hess's name. Is Dave still around?
Oh, yeah, Dave, in fact, Dave, I tried to get him on our leadership council to join his former colleague Jim Seif.
Right.
He wanted to take a step back, and he's not as busy and active, but he runs the PA Environment Digest, which is his news site, and he is working on that thing. He does it as a labor of love. He's basically retired now, but that's his. In fact, Dave was my boss at DEP in 2001 into 2002, before Katie McGinty came on board, and I worked for her for a period of time as well. But Dave is an unofficial advisor to our organization. We talk to him about once a month.
Oh, he's a great fella. I
He
have
is.
a lot of respect for Mr. Hess, and it's been
Yeah.
years since I've seen him. So, no, thank you both.
Yes,
We appreciate the input that you gave us today. And sorry I didn't get a chance to meet you in person or officially last week, but it was good to see you now twice. So,
Yeah.
thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, yes.
All right, any additional public comments today? Seeing none, we will move on to fiscal contractual. First on deck, we have a couple of repository properties we have to deal with today. A little notice here, it's a letter was sent to municipalities and school district informing them that all repository bid requests must be returned in 60 days or would be deemed approved. Taylor Township, Union Area School District, and Elwood City School District did not return their requests. That being said, our first one here is a resolution, and we'll call this resolution 2021-322. It reads, now therefore be resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners that the board is authorized to execute the bid acceptance form accepting the bid made by Tori Argero in the amount of $500 for repository property located at Mount Jackson Hickory Road at parcel ID 26-075700. I'll note this was accepted by North Beaver Township. And it's now coming to us as sort of the last member of the tax board.
Actually, it looks as though the school district.
Oh, I see that there now.
And I would have said the same thing you just said, but looking up there and then looking at that signature, I think it was the school district.
You caught that. I didn't see that. But yeah, all right, cool. But that being said, we have no indication that there's any reason not to allow the bid to go through. That being said, are there any questions or comments on what we'll call 2021-322?
If I may, it's very minor, it's very technical, and you probably get tired of me doing this, but I'd like to incorporate in the resolution somewhere that this property is in North Beaver Township. It does not say that in the resolution, and I'd appreciate if you'd both be willing to include that. Sure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And also on the resolution, Morgan, I had copied and pasted from the last one that we did, and I just noticed on all three of them, they say defeated. It should say accepted down at the bottom. So I'll make that change when we go upstairs.
Okay. Where are you?
Down at the bottom where Joe's gonna sign with the date. It says
Oh,
defeated, it should
yeah.
say accepted.
Oh, okay, so we'll
So
make that
I'll
alteration.
change them, yeah.
Good catch.
Yeah. That'd be bad for Mr. Orgeron.
That's why we call her Eagle Eye Vanessa.
That's it.
Well, with those two changes in mind, adding indications of North Beaver as well as accepting not defeating this bid,
Right,
I'll take a motion to approve resolution 2021-322.
so moved.
Second.
Your motion is second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion, Vanessa, please call roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 323. This is a bid made by Logan Sheridan, the amount of $500 for a quasi property located at Elwood Copple Road, parcel ID number 36-085300. This looks like it came from the Wayne Township Supervisors,
Right.
accepting that bid. Dan, I'm gonna beat you to it here. We'll
Thank you.
put in Wayne Township somewhere in that resolution.
Appreciate it.
And
We all thought the same, yeah.
unless there's any objections, we'll change defeated to accepted.
Yeah, I'm fine with both, thank you.
All right, we'll make it a motion to approve the 323.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And last but not least, also in Wayne Township, made by Logan Sheridan, $500 bid for the property located at Elwood Copple Road, located at parcel ID number 36-085300. Make those same amendments to the resolution itself, indicating number one, Wayne Township, number two, is accepted, not defeated. Unless there are any questions, comments, or further discussion, I'll take a motion for approval. We'll make this 324.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have no advertised bids or proposals, no received bids or proposals. We have two warrant registers, one dated December 3rd, 2021, the other dated November 30th, 2021. I'll give my colleagues a minute to check those over and take a motion to accept the file warrant register.
So moved.
I ask your indulgence, I'm a little bit behind you, Loretta.
That's okay. You're older.
Can't argue with her, she's right.
Just a couple months.
Yeah, but look how much younger she
You're
is.
younger.
Huh? I'm younger
Right,
than
you're
you. Yes, I'm younger
than
than both of you.
I'm ready to second Loretta's motion.
All right, motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of minutes from Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. My colleagues may check those over and take a motion to approve the minutes for making necessary changes.
Mr. Chairman, if I can bring something to your attention, going back to your resolutions for the repository.
What do you got?
I believe you approved the same property twice. One on Walter Street that's on the agenda was never brought up. You did the one on Wayne Township for.
I have two Wayne Township resolutions. I have two. You guys have two Wayne Township resolutions?
Yes. One is on,
Yeah. Two different parcel numbers.
All right.
Mhm.
Here's the, I got the Walter Street
Oh,
one.
you know
Joe has
what?
it.
I don't think it was ever reported on the record that way. I believe you read the same resolution.
Oh, you know what it says? It says, that says Walter Street,
these are both,
That's-
turn them both over.
Elwood Copple.
Yeah, they both say Elwood Copple.
Well, I'll tell you what, the resolution that we passed still indicates, well,
But we know if Walter Street is in Wayne Township.
Now it's Union Township.
Ah, okay, so we should, Yeah, we-
I'll tell you what, here's what we'll do here. Did we do the minutes yet?
There's a motion, second. I didn't.
Motion is second, all in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, get that out of the way.
Okay,
I will take, a clerical motion, amending resolution 2021-234 and indicating, sorry, 324, and indicating that, the property is $500 at Walter Street, made by Matthew Bucherri, if I'm not watching that name, parcel ID 34-231-300. Do we have that motion?
so moved.
Second.
We have motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Call back.
Thank you, JR.
Good catch.
We have written communications today from Allegheny Mineral Corporation from Slippery Rock Township. Allegheny Mineral Corporation located in Katanning proposes to conduct overburden and production blasting in compliance with all state and federal laws as written in the non-coal surface mining conservation and reclamation act at surface mining operations located in Slippery Rock Township, Lawrence County. That's number one. And number two is natural miner operating permit renewal for Select Industries Incorporated. Letter to inform that Select Industries Incorporated located at 420 North Cascade Street, Newcastle, PA, shall be submitted the following authorization BEP. Application type, a natural miner air quality operating permit. Application contact Buck Baldwin Envirothink Incorporated, and they're renewing that permit. Any questions, comments on correspondence?
Yeah.
Hearing none, I'll take a motion to accept and file correspondence.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask your indulgence for just a second?
Absolutely.
I want to take us back briefly to resolution 324 that we did amend. Can I ask Vanessa to verify, because I didn't get a chance to look at it well enough. Did in fact the Union Township Supervisors approve the request?
It was the board secretary, but yes, she approved.
Is it the supervisors or the school district? A municipal copy? Yeah, it's circled Union, okay, it was accepted, I just, she showed it, and it didn't, I didn't get enough time to see it, so, okay, I'm fine, thank you.
I'll add for context before we move forward. We just recently started doing the
Right.
repository property, so we're still getting our feet on that one. Before they were sort of handled internally upstairs, at the advice of legal counsel, we moved to a more public forum. So we're still making sure we get everything right on this. So I apologize for any confusion on that. But moving on to the big moment here, we have our 2022 budget presentation. This is the budget that we compiled with input from all three commissioners, from all of our department heads, from all of our row officers, from court administration, from outside entities over the course of 2021. So there were just a tremendous amount of stakeholders involved in making this budget. And as a result, culminated in this document right here, which is 458 pages of a budget. And this will be put on display after the meeting. We'll put it online probably, if not later on today, tomorrow morning, for anybody who wants to access it digitally. But I'll try to keep this relatively expeditious. Before I jump into sort of the process that we went through to put together the budget, I want to jump into some of the stuff that this board has done over the last 2 years. We're at our halfway point. Which is kind of incredible to acknowledge.
Right.
I mean, we're coming up on the halfway point of our terms. And so as it relates to fiscal management, I do want to highlight a couple of things that we've worked to control our expenses and to put the county into a solid fiscal position. So number one is we have controlled our expenses through 2022. Our expenses, I did a little basic expense analysis, have only increased total at a rate of 0.7% per year from 2020 to 2022. That's 0.7%, not 70%, which is 0.7% of 1%, which is well below inflation, especially now. And so we're keeping those costs low. That's relative to, I just go back in time briefly, the same period of time from 2017 to 2019, a 3.7% annualized increase. And so we're really working to keep those expenses down, recognizing that our revenues are not coming in like they used to. The other thing I want to note, we ran a surplus in both 2020 and 2021, and even subtracting the dollars that went back into our bank accounts from federal stimulus packages in 2020, without federal COVID stimulus, the surplus was over $2 million. For 2021, our projected operational surplus about $350,000, which is a positive indication for Lawrence County. I'll note we've held our insurance rates at a functionally constant rate in 2021 and 2022. In fact, our meeting before coming here actually was with our insurance consultants, and they were able to negotiate a price hold on our health insurance for fiscal year 2022, which is phenomenal. That again helps us control those costs because that's one of those factors that we really don't have a whole lot of control over. And we're certainly thankful to the Rashidi Group for the work that they do, and as well as our HR office on our health insurance. A couple other things I want to add. We've rebuilt the county operating reserve to a healthy level, and we started long-term capital planning to ensure that large capital purchases are spread out over a number of years as opposed to large fluctuations from year to year. Instead of having a roof, we need to put a new roof on the courthouse, for example. Instead of that roof costing $800,000 in 1 year at one time, through capital planning, we're able to spread that cost out over a number of years so it doesn't have spike effects on the budget moving forward. So I did want to note that at the end of the day, fiscal responsibility is the first and foremost for this board, and we're taking a number of steps to ensure that the county remains fiscally strong. A couple areas of concern that I do want to note moving forward. Biggest one is our CYS costs are increasing at an average rate of 16.29%. That's from 2018 to 2022. And that's the county's contribution to CYS. That's not total cost for the organization. Since 2018, we've actually seen an 87.15% increase in county contribution to CYS. And so if we're going to keep the county in a fiscally sound condition, we're going to need to continue working to get those costs back under control. Also, another outside factor that does raise some concern is that inflation currently is at a rate of 5.40% for the U.S. Northeast region, which is the highest that we've seen in a very, very long time. And that's going to cause some concerns on some of our expense line items as we adjust to new prices. Also note that revenue is unfortunately for Lawrence County declining at an average rate of negative 0.32% from 2020 to 2022. So we're actually we're losing revenue. We're not growing, unfortunately, in terms of our revenue base. And so again, moving forward, that is an area that we're going to have to be very cautious of, very mindful of, and look to ways to increase our revenue flows. On the other area that I'll note, and we mentioned a little bit earlier, we have minimal control over our insurance rate increases in future years. While we've been successful holding those rates constant in previous years, that's no guarantee that they'll be held constant in future years. If we're going to stay in the black, that is an area that we need to continue to look at. Also, just briefly, I'll note that I ran actually pretty complex revenue and expenditure projections through the year 2026. This year, for 2022, again, based on the CYS factor, based on inflation, as well as some other expenses, I'm projecting us to be basically flat for 2022. I'm not expecting a surplus. I'm not expecting a deficit, which, again, to me, given all those factors that we previously discussed, is still pretty good. That being said, when 2023 hits, we are going to be faced with some tough choices as a board if our expenses, again, particularly out of CYS, continue to increase at the rate at which they are increasing, as well as if inflation continues to increase at its current rate. In 2023, based on my revenue and expense models, we could be looking at a deficit of $826,888.99, all else constant. And again, if we can't get some of those, it goes back largely to CYS, but if we can't get some of those CYS costs under control, that deficit will grow through the year 2026. In 2026, projected deficit of $5,618,987.51. So it's imperative that we continue the work that we've been doing for the past couple of years to continue to get our costs down as low as humanly possible, to continue to control our spending, as well as to continue to look at different ways to improve our revenue situation. So that's sort of where we're at right now. That being said, in terms of the 2022 budget, jumping into the budget process, how this was all made. From June to July, the Board of Commissioners reviewed our audit. Our audit came out in May or June of 2021. This is for the 2020 audit. And we also looked at our prior year revenue and expense trends to see where everything was looking to be heading for 2022 and beyond. In August, first pass budget was compiled. Again, just looking at trend lines, looking at average costs, looking at our revenues. Every single line item was analyzed, and the budget was literally built from the ground up. Again, in 2022, we moved to a zero-based budgeting model where every single line item is literally rebuilt every single year from the ground up, taking into account actual costs, actual revenues, actual expenses, to make sure we have the most accurate, up-to-date budget possible, and that we catch any potential excessive cost before it becomes an excessive cost. From September to October, we conducted budget reviews with all our various department heads, our row officers, our court administration, to make sure that they didn't have any requests for additional funding in their budgets. Or in some cases, they came in and said, hey, I don't need this much in that line item. Or can we move, some money from this line item to that line item based on whatever factors their office might be encountering. And so there was a tremendous amount of input from our various internal stakeholders. In November, literally as late as 4 o'clock last night, we were compiling the 2022 budget, the draft that you see in front of you today. And in December, budget presented right now and adopted closer to the end of the month, probably after Christmas, after the public given time to review, provide any comments they might have to it. And that's sort of the budget process, how we do it in Lawrence County. Couple budget highlights, and this is the big one. There are no new real estate taxes in Lawrence County for fiscal year 2022. We were successful in holding the line on taxes, and that again was through a tremendous amount of work by everybody involved, whether it be from our department heads, our row officers, our board administration, just everybody that comes together to make this document what it is. And I am very happy to say we were able to hold the line on real estate taxes. I'll also note that there was actually a reduction in the general fund of 4.21%. And the reason for that, it was necessitated by revenue decreases. And so again, instead of increasing taxes or increasing fees, this board went back to the drawing board. We said, hey, where can we trim back? Where can we cut? Where can we potentially work to make things more efficient? Where can we not replace employees that may have retired? And as a result of that, we were able to reduce our general fund expenditures by an equal amount to that in which we saw a reduction in our revenues. As I mentioned during our highlights, we fully funded operating reserve is in place, which means that signifies to potential creditors that Lawrence County is in a strong fiscal position. And we also have the introduction this year specifically of capital budgeting, which I'm personally excited for because again, it allows for an additional layer of fiscal accountability in our budgeting process. Now, just to touch on a couple of the initiatives that are in the budget that I want to touch on, I'll turn it over to my colleagues for anything that they might want to touch on. There's a saying in government, it's show me your budget, I'll determine what you value. It's a way of saying, hey, where do you put your money? What do you value as a community? What do you want to see prioritizing your community? And the county actually plays a tremendous role in this because we largely have the largest pot of discretionary funding from a local governmental standpoint of any local government in Lawrence County. The school districts, are entirely devoted to, educating students. And the municipalities, a lot of their cost constraints. So the county really is in a position to provide a tremendous impact, tremendous benefit to our community. We've done so in a couple key priority areas in our budget. I'll add, if the 2021 budget was about strengthening Lawrence County's financial position, the 2022 budget is about bringing Lawrence County into the future. And we've made substantial discretionary investments with the goal of advancing our community. So within this budget, we made it very clear that in Lawrence County, we really value three major policy areas. And these areas I want to highlight. Number one is economic and community development. Number two is infrastructure and transportation. And number three is public safety, crime prevention, and victim protection. So I just want to give you some highlights of some of the investments that are being made in the 2022 budget to those policy areas. For economic and community development, throughout the 2022 fiscal year, the Board of Commissioners plans to make a series of strategic investments into critical neighborhood revitalization projects and economic development initiatives. And so to highlight a couple of those, we're providing in the budget $100,000 to the Redevelopment Authority of Lawrence County, which will provide that entity with seed money to grow, to really become an institution that can provide economic benefit. They can start looking at how to improve our downtown cores. They can start looking at how to bring back our neighborhoods with this seed money. And I'm sure the conversations will be ongoing with Amy McKinney, who's the Executive Director of the Redevelopment Authority, as well as members of that board, on how they plan to allocate that funding, again, to grow our communities, to grow our tax base, to attract new residents into Lawrence County. Thankfully, our hotel tax revenues are rebounding, as we mentioned in previous meetings, and as a result, we're able to project $230,400 for Visit Lawrence County as they work to promote some of our recreational assets. They work to bring in tourism dollars to the county. I'll add that comes on top of additional investment from the Board of Commissioners in 2021. We allocated that agency $80,000 in discretionary funding, and they were able to modernize and update some of their advertising programming. They were able to build out new videos as they relate to different tourist attractions and areas of competitive advantage that Lawrence County has over other areas as it relates to tourism. And so we're really looking at tourism as a big driver. Not even necessarily for tourism dollars at face value, but as a way to get people from Pittsburgh, get people from Cleveland, get people from Akron, get people from Morgantown to Lawrence County, get people from Erie and Harrisburg to Lawrence County, and hopefully convince one or two of them that maybe it might be worth locating to Lawrence County. That's the real value of tourism in my mind, is it gets people into your community that might not otherwise be there, and you might fall in love with it. We've included through a combination of discretionary funding and CDBG funding, $311,893 for our ongoing Union Township revitalization project. To date, we've rehabbed, I want to say 6 houses. We have applied for numerous grant streams. I'm hoping that we'll be in a position to announce 2 successful grant applications here in the next couple of weeks for that project. And that project's an example of what you can do when you partner, local governments partner together with nonprofit with successful nonprofit ventures to really rebuild a community from the ground up. We actually went through that neighborhood parcel by parcel. We looked at every single property in it, identified anything that we could do to either bring the house back to a better shape, rehab the house, enforce code in areas that haven't been enforced, clean up trash and vacant lots, include sidewalk connectors, pedestrian connectors, and we're really rebuilding that neighborhood from the ground up. It's a great project. It's caught the attention of the state, which is nice, and we're continuing to plug away on that. We've included $514,614 for blight remediation in our community, specifically targeted demolitions to tear down buildings that have long been eyesores and long been problem spots for Lawrence County. That's through a combination of fair funding, which we've been very successful at and being granted through the state over the last couple of years. The county demolition fund as well as some CDBG allocations towards blight remediation. We've included $110,000 for Penn State Extension to allow them to expand some of their programming as it relates to agriculture, as it relates to master gardeners, as it relates to 4-H, again, to prepare the next generation of ag workers to go into the industry. We've allocated $117,000 to Lawrence County Conservation District, again, an increase to them to allow them to continue their critical work and their conservation efforts across the county. And we've included $54,500 for agricultural preservation, which is the highest amount ever allocated to the Ag Preservation Board that I'm aware of in Lawrence County history. So the total spend, when you factor in all of our different economic and community development initiatives, amounts to $2,906,371, which we're really hoping will provide a significant impact from a community economic development perspective. As it relates to infrastructure and transportation, the Board of Commissioners plans to continue to partner with our municipalities to pave more roads and fix more bridges. Additionally, I'm very excited about this, the board is reinvesting in the Newcastle Municipal Airport and remains the second largest public funder of the Newcastle Area Transit Authority. And so to that end, under this budget, we've included $150,000 for a new airport terminal project. Looking at the different federal funding that's coming down over the course of the next few years as it relates to infrastructure, our airport is in need of upgrades. And I know the Airport Authority Board, which we appoint, is looking at making improvements to the airport, whether that be runway improvements, whether that be terminal improvements. And so we've included in this budget $150,000 for the design of the new terminal building at the airport. And that's something that I'm passionate about flying. I'm working on becoming a pilot myself, and so I'm happy that we were able to include
We'll have a
that.
place to land.
I still can't land. Don't think for 1 second. Don't you think for 1 second I can get that thing on the ground. I can take off and I can keep flying. There's a reason there's a guy sitting beside me.
That's a problem.
It's yeah, we're working on it. We've also included $1,299,465,000 for municipal road and bridge projects. Those both include past allocations, which have not been paid out to the municipalities, as well as future allocations that we're planning to make to make Lawrence County's roadway and bridge infrastructure strong, and to ensure that those critical infrastructure points are paid. We've included $800,000 for county bridge projects, largely as it relates to the Banks Covered Bridge remodel and rehabilitation, as well as general maintenance for those bridges, because they're critical components of our economy. If you can't get people where they need to go, your economy's not going to do so hot. And then we've also included, again, with the second largest public funder, $22,162 for the Transit Authority at the request of Transit Manager David Richards, which allows the Transit Authority to continue to tap into $7 million in state and federal funding to allow our residents again to get where they need to go. And that's coming off an additional $40,000 investment made by Lawrence County in 2021, where we are the first rural county in Pennsylvania, and I believe we might be the first rural county transit authority in the United States to use machine learning through Carnegie Mellon University to optimize our transit routes and look at different ways of structuring and providing transit to our residents. That's another project the state's got its eye on, and we're really a leader right now in rural transportation in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so our total spend on infrastructure and transportation is $3,077,734. Again, that's through a combination of our transportation accounts, as well as some CDBG allocations specific to transportation. Last area I want to touch on before I turn it over to my colleagues is our efforts in public safety, crime prevention, and victim protection. Commissioner Vogler, every so often, he mentions so much of what we do at Lawrence County is driven by crime. And so to that end, whatever we're doing to keep crime rates low and work to catch and put away bad people, that's critical to county operations. That's critical to controlling our costs. And on top of that, a critical component of restoring our community is ensuring that our residents are safe. And that means making significant investments into countywide public safety organizations and initiatives. And so to that end, included in this budget are $2,880,491 for the 911 center. Director Parrish is with us today. And we continue to ensure that facility operates 24/7, that our residents are always able to call in and request assistance when they need it. And our technological capabilities there and our radio capabilities are up to snuff for making those investments. It includes $623,859 for a fully staffed detectives bureau. One of the areas our district attorney is very passionate in is helping municipalities where they might fall through the cracks. And so, again, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of municipalities which are cost constrained, they can barely afford general police services, much less detective services. And so our DA's office really stood up to provide those services throughout Lawrence County. And he stood up to an extent on this. Lawrence County actually has a representative of our Detectives Bureau working directly alongside the DEA in enforcing drug crimes actually around the country. One of our detectives was in California recently We don't pay for that, though. We get reimbursed through the feds. But was actually in California recently working on a drug bust there. And so we're very proud of that Detectives Bureau. It's fully staffed now at 8 members. And that ensures that individuals who might have been victims of complex crime have somewhere, more complex crime have somewhere to go. We included $82,702 for our victim witness program to ensure that victims of crimes are protected and victims of crimes are informed of any movements related to those individuals who perpetrated crimes against them. And that, again, is an initiative that led through our DA's office. We've included $85,000 for a continuation of our ongoing crisis program, which funds a co-responder position for individuals who might have mental health or drug and alcohol issues. Police might not otherwise be capable of interacting with on their own or not have the training to interact with on their own. We actually have a position in Lawrence County government funded through our Department of Mental Health that goes out with police, that works alongside police to make sure that those individuals who might not need to go to jail, they just might need some mental assistance, they might need some drug and alcohol assistance, that they have access to those systems and that those individuals are taken care of in our community. And I'll also note with that, mental health just received a $600,000 grant, but it's over 2 years to add to our crisis services and again, make sure that our residents are able to get the help that they need. And lastly, in that category, it includes $396,074 for our emergency management agency, our emergency management grants, again, to ensure that our residents are safeguarded against everything from flooding to anything that might cause harm to those residents. And that's again through Director Parrish's office. And so the total spend in that category is $5,411,343. And so, that's in addition to all of our other expenses or allocations and everything that's included in the budget, everything from the assessor's office to the elections bureau to our court of common pleas. It's a lot. It's something to realize how many areas of a citizen's life the county has the ability to touch, and more so than any institution on a local level. We're able to, I think, make a real difference through the initiatives and the services that we fund in the budget, and that we're able to fund in 2022 with no tax increase, and that we're able to fund with a balanced budget. And so that being said, again, this will be on display upstairs in paper copy. We'll work to get the final copy out not final copy, but prelim copy out to our website, again, either later on today or early tomorrow morning. And I'm sure there'll be tweaks to be made as we move through December. But this was a lot of people put a lot of time into this budget, and I'm glad that we were able to come out with what I think it would be a really good outcome for Lawrence County. That being said, I will turn it over to my colleagues after that soliloquy for any additional comments they might have.
I'm exhausted for you. I first compliment you on a job well done with the time that you devote to it last year, this year, delving into the numbers to the extent that you do, almost to a point of what goes on in that head of yours sometimes,
Oh, yeah,
right? The numbers just total.
That's what the mental health grants are for.
That being said, the points that I would make, poor Mike Rippo, CYS, you and I, we're out there. We're gonna do our best. Mike Rippo is here from CYS. He's a newly appointed position.
Contract monitor.
Yeah, is the contract monitor, and that's to hopefully, as the year goes on, to start keeping closer track of those contracts that we do pay those percentages out to. That creates that $2 million that the county is obligated to supply. So we're going to definitely, I rounded it. But we're committed to working on that and getting those numbers down, while at the same time, continuing to provide the services that we do. And as you said earlier, just like Dan does mention that, a lot of our problems that we do have are the secondary, tertiary ripple effects of the crime issues and the problems that we face as a county. So, the fact that we can offer the services that we do, we need to continue that, but at the same time, just be aware that maybe there's some changes that we can make and some additional monitoring that we could do. So I'm glad we have the monitoring, the program, the contract monitoring program up and running, and that I look for good things to happen with that, with delving into the programs and successes and ways to tweak them so that we're not out those 10, 15, 20% matching funds that we do get from the state. Coming into the second year, it's hard to believe we're into our second year. First year was just, hit the ground running and dealing with COVID. And now this year, coming out of it, going back into it, and now with the inflation rates, the supply chains, the, lack of, employees throughout, not only here, but of course across the state and the nation. I think managing to do what we did, i.e. you leading the charge with it, and having a surplus and not raising the millage and being able to maintain the employee level that we have, I think to me is vitally important. While doing that we still continue to have the services that we do. And that's so important. And at the same time, doing what we need to do to move us into that arena where we are competitive with other areas. The two projects that we have going on with Stonecrest and the Homing Township are so vital. Whereas I'm not a pilot, but I don't want to be a pilot, but realizing that, that maybe advancing the terminal at our airport can create a different atmosphere and bring smaller craft in. And like you said, just changing the terminal, the atmosphere that I think you guys were talking about in Franklin, stopping, they have a restaurant and something like that, where those are things that we maybe haven't thought of that, hey, why not? And the money is there, through grants and different types of opportunities that we can do that. So I think that, by opening our eyes to those different things and having the monies, for the infrastructure that we can assist with for our municipalities, I think is great. I'm pleased with what we have come up with and hopefully, look forward to 2022, still continuing to watch, see what we can do and be conscious of that budget. CYS, Mike, John, everybody else there. We have a lot of pressure on us to perform, but I think that we can do that. I think we can bring those costs down.
Yeah.
I certainly think we can to be able to help out the budget while still providing the services to our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate all of your many hours of hard work over the last number of months. You devoted a great deal of your time on this. And a lot of good things have been said. I'll simply repeat, the bottom line is it's a balanced budget with no property tax increase. And I think that's good news for the entire community. And as Mr. Boyd noted, by law, we introduce it today and we have to have it on display for 3 weeks. And if I'm not mistaken, our plan at this point is on the 28th, barring any unforeseen issue that might arise, that we would adopt the budget on the 28th. Again, thanks for all your hard work, and same to Joe and to Loretta. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The only other thing I'll add before closing out is at the end of the day, this is the people's budget. So to that end, we certainly would welcome any member of the public who wishes to review it, any member of the public who wishes to provide input into it. We welcome their feedback. If they'd like to see certain programs included, if they'd like to see certain programs taken out. I'll note it is a balanced budget, which means any changes that we make, everything still has to be net zero. However, this at the end of the day is we work for the people, and this is the people's money. And I think all of us are certainly open to any suggestions, any recommendations, any programs that the residents of Lawrence County might want to see included. And so again, it will be online latest tomorrow afternoon, and this document will be on display in the commissioner's office through the end of the budget process, at which point I'll get updated once printed and distributed. But yeah, thank you to everybody for their hard work on this. It was it's always a large undertaking when you're looking at $91 million. But it's a good budget, it's a balanced budget, and we're certainly happy to continue to provide the services that we do to our community at no increased cost to that community. Thank you. Commissioner reports and comments. Loretta, you're on deck.
Okay, well, just a comment for our visitors that are here. That I appreciate you coming and being here. And I always say I'm a city girl, so learning the farming community is an ongoing process for me. And you know, in talking about the solar farms, the solar prospects for our community, I have to say that, you know, in defense of our farmers that are here, that are in Lawrence County, and it's in the entire farming community, you know, it's generational, and they're not making hundreds of thousands of dollars doing what they do. It's in their blood, and they work tirelessly because it's their legacy. So when I speak to one or two landowners and they talk about, you know, putting the solar on their property, or someone who had been against doing so because they wanted to keep it, you know, with as much farming as they could, to know that these last couple of years that have caused such devastation to the farming community, to just see and chat with them and talk with them and hear them say that's something that they're thinking of doing, that they want to do, that they feel that they need to do in order to be able to keep their farm. You know, that's a difficult decision for them to make. So I appreciate the fact that you guys are here, that whether you're going to, you know, all the different counties or whatnot, I don't know, but it brought that to the forefront for me to know that you know, they want to keep their farmland viable. And if this is something that they need to do or want to do in the meantime, for that short amount of time, and still have it be agriculture in the future at some point, as opposed to selling out to a development. I think that I think that says something, you know, for the community itself. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, and put a, you know, just that what a hard decision that would be to make, choosing to do something like that. But you know, their lifeblood is in that land. So we have our flag at half-staff for two reasons. Today is the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th, and then also with the passing of Bob Dole. Yeah, 98 years old.
True nature.
Right, definitely. So I'm done. If Dan wants to elaborate on something more with it, that's it for me. Thank
I
you.
think Morgan's next.
Oh, sorry,
I'll try.
Morgan's next.
I'll try to keep it brief. You've indulged me so far today. Two things. Number one, I was driving into work today, and I drive by Westminster College every day. And they have in full production the movie that they're filming up there. It was really cool to drive by and see green screen deployment and lighting and all the different streets blocked off. You know, I've never been to Los Angeles, I've never been to Hollywood, but I got to imagine it's pretty damn close to what it feels like to be there. You know, people don't realize how much goes into making those movies, and it really is a point of pride for our community to be able to host a production of that scale with you know, very esteemed actors, very esteemed directors. It's just a great thing for Lawrence County. I want to say they're done at the covered bridge in down the park. Is that accurate, John?
I believe that's
I
true.
believe they're finished.
Only other thing I'll add, just because we're touching on airports, two things. Number one, I didn't know this until very recently. They did a study a number of years ago on the economic output of the airport for Lawrence County. Right now, the airport, which we don't contribute to on a regular basis, It provides $6 million worth of economic output to Lawrence County as it stands in its current shape. They're one of the few airports in Pennsylvania, few municipal airports that operate in black, which again is a rarity across the state. The other thing I'll note, back in May, and I thought this was very interesting, I was driving back from Kentucky. I was at an event down in Kentucky. And I stopped to meet a friend at a restaurant. We were talking, and for whatever reason, he brought up unprovoked airports and how two neighboring counties down, specifically, this is just an anecdotal example, down in Kentucky, both had airports. One of those counties made substantial investments to the airport. They extended the runway. They allowed for larger commercial and freight traffic to land at that airport. They provided more accommodations to pilots. And the other let their airport slip. They didn't make those investments. And as a result of the investments made by the county which invested in this airport, they actually managed to locate warehousing and distribution centers for a large portion of Amazon's operations in the East United States. A lot of Amazon's aircraft carriers now and haulers now fly out of that small, what was a small county airport in a rural county in Kentucky. And as a result, a tremendous amount of economic impact has been created in association with that. And so to that end, just touching on what Loretta mentioned, we've got two pretty sizable developments. One we know is coming to Lawrence County. One we're still working through some of the financing, but we're hopeful. And with those developments, as was mentioned by RIDC, and as has been mentioned by John McCart, a large portion of what they're looking to attract in terms of industry is logistics and warehousing space. And so to that end, I'm hopeful that with investments into that facility, especially with it being so close to that Bear Road site, that would provide even more attractiveness to companies that RIDC and that John McCart are looking to attract. I just wanted to add that in there. It's just such an overlooked feature of our community, but it has the potential to be such an asset. I'm very, very glad that this board decided to invest in it. Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to talk about the flag, so thank you for doing that. I appreciate that you made note of that fact. That's all I have, but I would like to request, if I may, maybe a 3-minute recess.
So
Thank
we
you.
go recess for,
Absolutely.
we'll take 5.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Someone's in a stretch.
There you go.
Are you taking a recess too?
What?
Are you taking a recess too?
I'm just grabbing a Dr. Pepper.
Oh, okay.
Get me through the rest of the hour.
I'm just going to stay seated because I'll get lost and forget where I'm supposed to be.
Hey, it's so good to meet you, by the
Oh,
way.
you as well. Thank you guys so much.
yeah.
So, and you have said you go to Mines and Meadows, huh? Yeah, I think that's one of our underrated tourism spots.
Yeah.
I believe. I know. I mean, of course, again, I don't participate, but I know that it's huge.
It is,
Yeah.
and just like if you look at West Virginia, the Hatfield and Port
Hatfield,
Trails,
yep.
that tracks me all the way through Texas.
Yeah.
And you're looking at guys that spend $100,000
So
just
you
to
have a
recreate.
couple minutes to answer a couple questions, or do you want to wait till after?
Mind boards.
If we get started in the meeting.
The exact number of the
Yeah, 10 a.m., yeah.
Now this
I
big
just did.
plan by the DCNR.
But general fund or total?
Well, what's outside of the general?
Jack,
Got it.
Probably both.
I thought you did, but like you, so many things going on.
Highlight all that.
So-
Stop by because.
the general fund total this year
Media coverage or,
is
the
36
PR
million,
aspect of
$156,622.
Okay.
Absolutely.
total budget-
Absolutely. There's just.
How you doing?
91 million,
Good.
$49,076.
Dan is also.
That includes what else besides general fund?
Sure, so that is CYS,
Just how much.
MHDS,
that the county. number
Domestic
is involved
relations.
with, and then number 2 is not involved with.
911.
Municipalities adopting theirs.
That's
I mean,
the-
what, it's not. Okay.
No, it's in the number one. ARP funding,
What's ARP?
American Rescue Plan.
People that I spoke to,
He was in his age.
you know, said if
Our
it's
debt service fund,
taking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So for
our
the
library
tax
fund.
base To go to solar.
And our
is
transportation
to
funds.
begin with, because they want it to be just for them, but they can't survive.
among others. Those are the big ones.
So they already did the.
No.
This is,
Right.
you know.
Was it
listen,
What's in there?
it's
I've seen somebody else do it
starting
since summer or early fall. I was like, I wonder if they're doing that.
because
they were doing a pattern.
Surplus plant.
Yes,
No surplus.
I thought we did it in the spring, but I wasn't sure, and I don't know.
2021. Our projected surplus for 2021 is about 300.
I thought, and then whoever was doing it, I mean, they were doing a pattern. They said,
That gotta be something bad.
yeah, it was in the fall.
No, it-
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And I don't know
It's
what
almost
the
like
hell
budgeted revenues versus budgeted.
And it might, well, and I was just wondering if they did quadrants because, I mean, what is it? Not even half a mile from the Mercer County line, but it didn't seem, like you said, when they were going south, it didn't seem like they were that far. And then come back, well, it is, yeah. I thought it was a spring, but I know something else.
Like just.
That's my job.
I'm just gonna take it.
Stuff for that.
So
You already have to
be.
That comes from a dedicated hotel tax. You have to get
Yes,
it.
right.
Yes,
And our.
that's one of the three, actually two audits, county's audit and tourism audit.
I bet you could make it
It's a different type of something.
That is been the discretion of Conservation District Board, which is appointed by the Board of Commissioners and audited every year. Yep.
Because, I mean, just like with the mineral
So
rights,
those funds are all audited.
you know, how did we didn't
We
have.
have,
All allocations
That,
Yes.
but.
from, the county gets audited annually.
I asked people.
Government agencies get audited annually.
Yeah, it's
gotta
tough.
be And I don't use any.
And
For so many.
the county gets audited like a couple of steps. Most of our allocations are to government agencies or they're for projects with the county's administrative.
Yeah, and you know, it's so, I would be more sympathetic to the
It
anti.
just seems like, you know, that's a lot of money and.
But it's not, it's primarily coming from people who live
Nature is.
within.
And
So we don't. Sure, so there's not a.
Right. Yeah.
Like, for example, our
Yes.
redevelopment.
Yeah, and that's just, it's so.
Headed through LCAP, and they're headed for individual municipalities.
2 years ago.
All on.
Yeah.
All of we had all of that rain and just now, you know, the crops washed away like 2 or 3 different times, I remember.
I'm sure, I'm gonna head them out. I was here until 4 AM last night.
If you're up there and
And
you're
so,
standing
it's all
like
snaps.
about
Different, you know, landowners and farmers, and they're just.
Bill Boydera might have some pictures actually, because he was there earlier. Oh, okay.
Young man, you know,
video,
certainly showing the signs of age because he's been doing that.
On the road.
It's just like,
Yeah, if I'm driving, like I said, I'm not.
Texted people,
what we do, it's again,
oh, Gary Church.
you know, yes, the help is there, and I never realized that there were so many rules and regulations on farms.
Oh,
You go, yeah.
Oh,
Next 2 days is gonna be
people
fun.
got the north,
Very difficult. That's why they just.
I'll stop, I'll see if I can get them.
Different knowledge of all of the environmental.
Related to Joe's.
Stuff.
No.
You're not.
No, but I met him.
And they're getting older.
Yeah, he's a representative, yeah.
See, oh my God.
I'm not from here, regulation.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We all benefited from it.
Oh, okay. Brian, you I consider
I mean,
What pill you take in the morning?
it's unbelievable to me.
Are you there?
Like I said, even for the Africa for a war, and I didn't say.
Must've just been restocked the rally last night.
Hey, Morgan.
I used to drink pop, I like pop.
Regulations.
That's good, it's just, you know, probably what root beer and Coke.
Morgan, you had a vending machine in the office,
What an
it's functional.
Yeah.
And when you put money in it to get Dr. Pepper, you got 2 of them.
Oh, I wish I had that. I wish I had that. I would save so much money during budget season.
Quit drinking pop for 2 months.
because that's what you have to
I
get.
haven't had, I had one that was
Yes.
all about Pepsi, my mom's.
They don't want that.
No, you're
Coffee
absolutely
and
right.
water, that's it.
Absolutely.
You and I are
What an
alike.
education.
I
I mean, a
think
small
you
city
would
of
remember,
Newcastle.
you would remember, guys,
There's a
by the
police
gal.
officer who called it.
My daughter nagged
So, and I'm.
incessantly. I said, all right, so I quit cold turkey like you. So now it's just water and
What did-
unsweetened iced tea.
You look at it, you look at it, they had
There's
tea
a
all
lot
the
of
time.
in coffee and I don't use sugar in it.
Yeah, there you go, that's good.
I used to drink Mountain Dew like crazy.
But I'm glad you guys
Still
came.
positive.
Definitely.
All right, we're gonna get resumed here.
Yes.
Now,
Chair it back into, or gavel it back into session. By the way, Joe, you've stuck around so long, one of our vendors is bringing pizza afterwards, so you're both welcome to.
Absolutely, sure.
As well as anybody else who's, sat through what I think is probably the longest meeting Board of Commissioners has had since I've been here.
I think you might have beaten my longest.
No.
Yes, yes.
No,
I
we're an
have.
hour and a half and we were sitting in that meeting for at least 3.
You're well on your way.
All right, next on deck, is resolution for discussion of possible approval to authorize the tax revenue anticipation note in the amount of $2,500,000. This is through Huntington Bank at an interest rate of 0.95%. That is 0.95, not 9.5, not 95. 0.95%.
Yes.
Which, to my knowledge, at least as long as I've been here, is the lowest interest rate that we've ever been able to achieve for the Tran. Dan, you've been here a hell of a lot longer. You ever remember it being 0.95?
I truly can't recall, but this is low.
Yeah.
The Tran, this is a routine function of government. We do this every single year. What it does is we send out, the treasurer was here earlier, tax notices and tax bills in January, sometimes early February, depending on how early we're able to push it out. As a result of that, our revenue doesn't really start rolling in until April. And so to that end, the way the county's cash flows work, we're cash poor in January, February, and March. We don't have a whole lot of funding. And the goal really in the first quarter of any fiscal year is just to get through the first quarter. April hits and we receive the bulkhead of our tax revenues because that's the end of the discount period. The Tran finances county operations in January, February, about half of March, until those revenues roll in, we're able to become sustainable through our cash flows. I'll note that, it basically, like this year, I think it costs under $20,000 in terms of interest to finance several $1 million worth of operations in the first 3 months of 2021. This is going to cost even less because, again, that interest rate is so low. So this is just a routine function of government. We're thankful to Huntington for providing this service to us, and we're thankful for West Banco for also submitting a quote to us. Questions or comments on the Tran?
No.
We'll make that resolution 2021-325.
325.
And I will take a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Vanessa, please call roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2021-326. This is the formal resolution introducing the county's 2022 annual budget. Read now therefore be it resolved by Lawrence County Board of Commissioners in accordance with section 1782 of the county code, a proposed budget is hereby introduced for public review until December 29, 2021, the date set for
That's a
final.
Wednesday.
Say
28.
Should be 28.
28. 2021. Might have been December 29 last year. Yeah, this is just basically the formal introduction of the budget. Any questions, comments? I'll take a motion to approve 326.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Question motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 2021-327, setting the millage. And Vanessa, if you'd be so kind, and assuming this passes, I don't think it will be an issue. If you'd be able to forward a copy of this over to our treasurer. And this sets our millage. It's the same as it was for the past 2 years. General purposes at 7.528 mils, debt purposes at 0.646 mils, and special purposes, the library at 0.135 mils. That brings total millage for the county at 8.309 mils. And this will allow us to take in revenue for Phil Functions County government for next year. Any questions or comments? Again, I want to reemphasize this is a flat rate. Rates are not being increased.
Right.
Any questions, comments on?
Just a quick comment, and I say it all the time, but again, by state law, counties can only tax property. We are not legally permitted to tax wages or income, unlike school districts, cities, boroughs, and townships. That's my first point. My second point is, and Mr. Boyd touched on it, there is a small portion of the property tax that is devoted to the 3 libraries in our county, the Newcastle Library, the Elwood City Library, and the library in Bessemer. And I wish I could have taken credit for implementing that, but that predates me. A prior board of commissioners saw fit to do this, and whichever board that was, I give them credit, because our libraries are, all 3 of them are real community assets, and I'm glad we're able to support them in this manner. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I will take a motion to approve 2021-327.
So moved.
Second. The motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Up next, Jeff, thanks for waiting so long.
Oh, it's all right. I was just waiting for lunch.
Angina. We got the Angina.
I had pizza yesterday.
You're having it again today. You're having it again today.
Enjoy.
Resolution for discussion possible vote under agreement with Bearcom. What do we have going on?
This is our annual maintenance agreement that we did with Bearcom years ago with Staley. But it is the maintenance agreement for all of our camera systems that are in the 911 center, also the one that is here in the courthouse, of all the facilities around. Our microwave system for the radio connectivity, some of the other radios, portables and mobiles, and our mobile command post that we have. So this is the maintenance agreement. It's not a warranty extension or anything like that. It's just it's our general maintenance agreement that we have with them. Call them out in the middle of the night and fix them for us. So this is in lieu also of what we have for Motorola will be coming later on after the first of the year. This starts in January, but I had them submit it to Labor early. We won't pay for it until January. So that's what it's about.
I have a very quick question, as you might know the answer. Does this include the cameras in the jail?
No, sir. No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. No, it's just what the camera system that we used a grant for years ago from DHS, and we call it the system in here.
Okay.
Yeah, the jail is on their own system altogether. It's
Okay.
just a camera system for the courthouse and for our public.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
On the jail specifically, in conversations with a former warden, I'll be putting a formal capital budget once we get it compiled. Just formal adoption. That's separate from the budget. It's a capital budget. It's a different document. But one of the things included in the capital budget are camera upgrades at the jail. And again, that's in consultation with the former warden. Just wanted to note that because you brought it up. Thank you. All right. Motion to approve, make it 328. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. The motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing no question on the motion, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'll have for 2 minutes of fame.
That's fine. I'm out of here.
Get the warm up.
Have some pizza. Have some pizza.
I will on the way out. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay.
Up next, we have the assessment appointment, JR, resolution for discussion of possible vote to approve the compromise settlement for property 25-113900. JR, you come before us periodically. What do we have going on?
Like the resolution states, it's consent order with the property owner located at 3008 Eldebor Lane. He filed an assessment appeal within the board based off that project that the county is in progress of sketch detection. The county did find a few improvements that were not being previously assessed. So his assessment increased, he went into the Board of Assessment Appeal hearing, and I also identified a few things to the board, so the board increased the assessment further. Went up to the Court of Common Pleas, and we came into a settlement based off one of the changes the board made. Myself and the solicitor did agree that was an improvement that needed to be valued. So we're still seeing an ultimate increase from his original assessment, but it is a compromise of $77,800. Went from was $80,100 and go down to $77,000.
This is in Neshannock Township. Neshannock Township and Neshannock School District both signed off.
Neither one of them intervened in this case. Typically, they do not because of the low value in it. There's only a $6,000 total assessment, so most of these residential ones is what about the school district doing the township.
And we by default are required to
Yes,
participate.
basically, yes.
Okay, questions, comments?
I need to just note for the record that the gentleman mentioned here is a neighbor of mine. However, I did consult with our solicitor in terms of my ability to vote on this, and he indicated that given the fact that there's no family relationship, we're not relatives in any manner, the solicitor advised me that I would be able to vote on this. That to be part of the record.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take make it 2021-329. I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second, further discussion, hearing none. Question on the motion, Vanessa, call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you also have Vanessa give me a copy of resolution 227?
Yep.
Our office is the one that creates the tax officer.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Up.
It's
Out of order. Up next, Mike, again, thank you for,
Surviving.
at least got to say the pledge.
He set you up for that, huh? That moment in the sun.
First of all, I want to thank Loretta for a warm introduction. Thank you.
Oh, goodness.
All right, we'll make this 3:30 Harbor Creek.
Oh, my goodness. We'll get there.
While Mike is sitting down, I do want to make note of the fact that Mike has a cousin who used to be a county commissioner in Cameron County.
Oh, okay.
Tony Moscato, who's a friend of mine, because Tony ultimately was a member of the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board.
Oh.
And now is a member of the Pennsylvania Board of Pardon and Parole. I hope I got that right. You two are first cousins?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tony's a prince of a guy. We first met when he was a county commissioner.
His mother and my father.
How about that? Small world.
Yeah.
Small world. Please give him my best.
Let's go from here. What do we got going on?
Just a resolution to renew the contract. They've been with us for about 8 years. We partner up with JPO on this. The bottom line on the third column down, basically what our share is, what the state share is.
Questions, comments? We'll make that, like I said, 3:30. I'll take a motion to approve room with Harbor Creek Youth Services located in Harbor Creek, PA.
So moved.
Second, we have a motion second, any further discussion, hearing none, question on the motion, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
I'm Mike. Sorry.
All my doodles over here was while he would see that.
I got one day. I got 1 day a year. That's what I get. 3:31. Appointment to the Conservation District Board. As is by typical practice, I'll defer to the commissioner representative on that board for this specific resolution. Dan?
Well, thank you. I do have the honor of serving on the Conservation District Board. The law requires that one commissioner sit on that board. So you go to any county and there's one commissioner who sits on that board. And it's been my pleasure to have done that for the past few years. And the process by which the other board members come about is it's an interesting process in that community agencies nominate people to serve on the board. And so consequently, earlier this year, Vanessa sent out a letter to a host of agencies and received letters of nomination. Fortunately, a number of those letters recommended that we reappoint Mr. Blaine Sturgeon, who is from Perry Township, to continue to serve on the board. He is an excellent board member. I have a lot of respect for Blaine. And that leads us to the reappointment of myself. I think since I'm on there, I'm gonna abstain, but I'd like for the record to show that I am in very full support of Mr. Sturgeon's reappointment. That'd be what I would offer. Thank you, Mr.
Absolutely.
Chairman.
Well, I got a problem with the second guy.
Yeah, well, you and me both.
I kind of like them.
We might have a tie vote.
I'll take a,
Okay.
unless you have any comments, Laura,
No,
I'll take a motion to approve 2021-331.
so moved.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
I'll abstain.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Vanessa, we've been so busy lately. For the housing authority appointments, indulge me for a second. When was Debbie appointed? You know?
2012.
2012. So this, okay. When was Reverend Young appointed?
2013.
13. Oh, you even put notes on these. I didn't see the notes.
That's okay.
Sorry. And I see 05 for
Yep.
Ms. Wise, and those are our housing authority guys. Oh,
Let me add for Ernestine, you said 05, and I'm sure that's right. There was a period of time where she was not on the board, so she was on and then off and back
Oh, okay, I
on,
see.
but just for the record.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
For context, I'm gonna vote no on all of these. That no vote is a fulfillment of the campaign promise on my end. It's certainly no ill will on anybody that's currently
Right.
serving on the housing authority board that we're reappointing. That being said, I did make a promise during the campaign that I would not vote to reappoint any individual which served on one of these more discretionary boards after they've served either 8 years or 2 terms. Conservation district's a little different because they're nominated, and to me that's because we don't have the full discretionary authority over that. But I actually had the pleasure of meeting with the Housing Authority Director, Gene DeGennaro, as well as his successor, as he's retiring in January, a couple of weeks ago. And I'll note he gave the full recommendation to reappoint these board members. And I'll also note that I had a conversation with the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, their district representative who oversees 6 states, I think, in Northeast United States. As it relates to housing projects. And so we're working to connect the both local housing authority with HUD to potentially get more federal housing dollars deployed here, as those can be instrumental in revitalizing the community. So looking forward to working with the board on that and with the new executive director of the housing authority when she is officially takes her duties on board. That being said, I'll take we'll name this 332 for Debbie Hedden. Any comments? Only thing that I'll add here is I wasn't able to make Debbie's retirement party. I was unfortunately occupied that day. But Debbie just retired from the crisis shelter, now known as Arise. Did a phenomenal job there for a very, very long time, serving in that capacity. And I'm glad that she's willing to remain active in our community. Just want to mention that for Debbie. I'll take a motion to approve 332.
So moved.
Second. A motion is second. Any further discussion here? Not a question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
No.
Motion carries.
Up next, Reverend Young, very respected Reverend in our community. 333 to appoint him to housing authority. Any questions on that? I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Any further discussion? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
No.
Motion carries.
Up next, we have Ernestine Wise. Is she the member on the house?
She's the resident.
Yeah.
By you might have mentioned this, but by law,
Right.
the housing authority is required to have a resident of a housing authority as a member of the board to give those individuals who are housed in housing authority complexes and seat the table.
Yes.
So did want to note that. I'll make it 3:34, and I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd.
Yes, no.
Motion
I
carries.
was up, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's force a habit. Maybe. We'll be down for a maybe. Up next, for the Industrial Development Authority, John Greenwood is getting reappointed. He was appointed in 2020. First and foremost, John's a great guy. He's right now works for Penn Power. He's a district, I want to say what district director, district manager. I don't know what his official title
It's
is
an
now.
engineering position, but I forget his title.
Yeah.
He does a lot with the engineering aspect of it.
Just a great guy, exceptionally sharp, understands economic development from a utility perspective. And we're certainly happy that he's willing and able to serve on that board, resident of Shannick Township. Make that 3:35. And unless there are any further questions, comments, I'll take a motion to approve Mr. Greenwood's reappointment.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
Yes, and then I'll have a comment.
Sure.
after that.
Commissioner Boyd.
Yes.
The quick comment is, unless I am mistaken, we still have one other opening on the Industrial Development Authority.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Up next, we have a number of reappointments to the Redevelopment Authority. The Industrial Development Authority is predominantly focused on industrial projects, industrial financing. The Redevelopment Authority, for years, they've been the demolition czars, as I mentioned during the
Yes.
budget presentation. I'm hoping that role evolves into something more over the course of the next several years, as they, are able to implement more programs. They did run our facade program earlier this year,
Mhm.
did a great job at that, and we're certainly thankful for their partnership in revitalization projects. That being said, first up, we have Dennis Alda in the Shannick Township, served since 2003. Unless there are any questions, comments, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd.
No.
Motion carries.
I got that one right. Up next, 3:37, reappointing, I'll tell you what, we can take out the whereas Vince Foligno is resigned line from this resolution, because is this filling his unexpired terms? I thought we did that.
No, yeah, you're correct. You
Yeah.
already did that.
So we can take the unexpired term out there too, because this is a full term he's getting
Right.
appointed to. Jim, as a former county administrator, before he was county administrator, he was the chief county planner, before Amy served in that role. One of the great things about this board is that it takes a degree of planning knowledge, it takes a degree of grant administration to be able to successfully fulfill the roles of that. And one of Jim's strong suits is in planning and grant management, and we're certainly happy to have him on the redevelopment authority. That being said, unless there are any questions or comments, I'll take a motion to approve 337.
So moved.
Second, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler.
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd.
Yes.
Motion carries.
338, John Natal. John's a great guy. John's on every board there is. But he's a great guy. Works for Pennsylvania American Water Company. On these boards, it is critical that you have representatives from utility companies. There's a lot of redevelopment work deals with, pulling up utilities, approving utilities, and ensuring that commercial structures and residential structures have access to utilities. So John is a tremendous asset again on this specific board. He's been serving since 2006. Unless there's any questions or comments, I'll take a motion to approve 338.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any further discussion or none? Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Spielvogel,
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd.
No.
Motion carries.
Up next, new appointment to the Southwest Pennsylvania Commission. I'll note it's Wilmington Township, not Wilmington Borough. So make that note there. This is appointing Brad Berlin to the Southwest Pennsylvania Commission as Lawrence County's fifth appointee. All three commissioners serve on that board. I actually serve on the executive board. And Amy McKinney is the county's planning director, is our additional individual serving in that capacity. Southwest Pennsylvania Commission oversees a wide range of transportation projects in the 10 county Southwest Pennsylvania region. They have a hand in every major infrastructure deployment across Southwest PA. Mr. Berlin was the president and owner of Dunbar Asphalt starting in 1995, sold to Lindy in March of 2019, and currently serves in an executive role at Lindy. I'll note that in my mind, and I believe in the opinion of the board, it's crucial that we have private sector involvement in everything that we do. And Mr. Berlin, I think, will complement Lawrence County's current contingent to SPC by adding some private sector insight for large-scale transportation projects. We'll make that 339. Also thank Jim Gagliano for serving this capacity while he was county administrator, and probably even dating back when he was the planning director. I think you're right. And take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second with a comment after we vote.
Sure. Question is the motion seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I appreciate, I think your point is very well made about having a private sector person representing us on the Southwest Commission. And I also concur, we thank Mr. Gagliano for his many years of service, and it's nice to know he'll still be serving the community on the redevelopment for it. This works out very well because we, of course, are also part of the Northwest Planning Commission.
Right.
That composition is a little bit different. We only send 2 people to that board. All rise.
Where's lunch? Where's lunch? We going to lunch?
Yeah, actually, you timed it right, son.
Did I?
They're bringing lunch in.
Oh,
It's all for you.
I was gonna take you guys to lunch. Basically here, my own.
I owe you. I don't think you let me pay for one yet.
Mind you, how I feel with people I don't like. What's happening? Am I intruding?
We're gonna wrap up. We're gonna wrap up the public meeting, and then you're welcome to stick around.
I was serious, that's why I stopped.
Okay.
Well,
Very good.
Yeah, next time. But you're welcome to stick. Let Taylor Engineering treat you.
Stay and have lunch with
Oh,
us.
Taylor, Frank's buying. Oh, John.
Very good.
Oh, yes. I'll definitely suck his wallet out.
The note on the,
Supervisor Slippery Rock Township, just in case you wanted.
okay.
Yeah, sorry. It wasn't nothing important, but I'm kind of an ignorant person. Well, let's know.
There's other counties you go to and see if anybody matches.
Yeah. That's right. I had to go over and see Perry. Sorry about his loss, over there.
We have 16 townships, which means we have 3 supervisors per township.
Yeah.
I would argue that Sonny has the best sense of humor out of
Absolutely.
any township
Absolutely.
supervisor. in the
Yeah, why not? Why be a hard butt? It's nowhere, you know what I mean?
Right.
Fighting and arguing and stuff. That's why the people come into the township. I try to calm them down, talk to them, take care of whatever the problem is. They might come back in a week with donuts. And our secretary said that has never happened here. Never.
Well, I'll finish the point that the structure for Northwest a little bit different. We only send 2 representatives. They are 1 commissioner. In this case, it's myself. And what we've done, I think, it coincides with what we did today. We have a private sector person in Tom McKinley. And Tom's been a very strong member of the Northwest Commission. He never misses a meeting, and he always has positive input. Now, it's just coincidental that both Mr. McKinley and Mr. Berlin happen to be from Wilmington Township. That's just a coincidence. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you. Up next, now we get into the budget amendment portion of the show. We'll try to get through these expeditiously. You guys had the pleasure of coming to us during, this is the longest meeting that we've had. ever.
Mhm, truly.
I usually try to do 15 minutes at a time. Budget resolution, this actually relates to what we were talking about earlier with the task force officer for the DEA in partnership with the VA's office. Whenever overtime expenditures are incurred as a relation to federal drug investigations by our task force officer. We get reimbursed for those overtime expenses. This resolution allows for, it's a budgetary mechanism to allow us to get reimbursed for $20,000 worth of overtime incurred basically on behalf of the Drug Enforcement Administration. Resolution 340, I'll take a motion to approve unless there are any questions or comments.
So moved.
Second, the motion is second, any further discussion, hearing none, question on the motion, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 341. This is CDBG revision for the 2021 budget, increasing CDBG revenues. This is as it relates to Shenango by $109,483, and increasing Shenango Township Public Expense Account by the same amount. I don't know exactly what the project is, but we also don't have a whole lot of say over what those projects are. Amy messaged me last night, noted this would be on the agenda, noted it was approved by Shenango. They're just making an amendment to allow them to administer Shenango CDBG funding. Any questions or comments? I'll take a motion to approve.
Moved.
Second. Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion for 341. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Up next, we're transferring $707.45 from Central Service and Miscellaneous Admin, IT maintenance and repair. This relates to our ongoing infrastructure improvement project as it relates to wiring. Just paid another bill from the architects that designed our new wiring. Take a motion to approve 342.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 343, transferring $9,500 from Corner Hospital Postmortem to Solicitor Special Counsel. We're involved in a number of different lawsuits through P Corp. We have to reimburse P Corp for certain attorneys' expenses related to their administration of those lawsuits. And so this is a transfer. Corner's been pretty good at incurring a decent amount of savings out of that specific line, and we're transferring some monies to pay for those reimbursements. Do we have unless there are any questions or comments, I'll make it 343.
I assume he's aware of this, to your knowledge.
No, he's got more than enough money to finance it.
Okay.
I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Question on the motion. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Commissioner Steelvogel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogler?
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now for administrative transfers. We've got the maintenance department moving $190 from travel and training materials and supplies, and this is maintenance, isn't it? No, Nicholson's office.
Nicholson.
Oh, I see. I saw maintenance
Yes.
department on the transfer
Uh-huh.
request. Thanks for catching that. Oh, this is, yeah, they've been having some water. In addition to the snakes out there, they're not having water filtration problems. So they're moving some money from travel and training contingency to materials and supplies and maintenance repair to cover cost of installation, 2-month service charge, as well as a replenishment of petty cash. That's A. We also have a transfer postage, $100 to bond insurance. DJ Nicholson was just reelected. As a result, has to take on a bond, as is required of all elected officials. Theirs are not funded through CCAP as ours are, and we have to finance that. Judiciary. What are you gonna do? This is 04, that's Russo, I believe. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Yeah. Postage, $100, materials and supplies, just funds some end of the year expenses. $7,000, public safety, maintenance repair facilities, the tower rental and maintenance. This is sort of the result of, I think I've explained this in previous meetings, that PEMA reorganized that chart of accounts. And so last year, more accurately, the 2021 budget was sort of me and Jeff going through and spitballing what needed to be included in every account because we had no historical record to indicate what should be funded from where. So there's going to be some transfers related to public safety. Here's another one. $588.68 from public safety, travel and training to vehicle expense. Vehicle repairs, gas, etc. Recycling solid waste grants and programs to vehicle expenses. Again, vehicle. You know what that is? That's the price of gas. We didn't factor in, what it is right now when we made the budget. The jail, a number of transfers. The jail being such a large cost item, it's necessary by the end of the year. There's some transfers in some different areas. So they're transferring $8,000 from travel and training contracted medical, $1,000 from blood test to contracted medical, $2,000 from equipment lease to contracted medical, $3,662 from uniforms to contracted medical, $4,000 from a contingency to maintenance and repairs, and $388 from contingency to contracted medical. That's to fund our medical agreement with Prime Care. Thank you. Planning, this is CDBG, it's not general fund, just transferring some money from Shenango Sewer to Shenango Public Facilities. That's all. Controller's request, record improvement contingency to records improvement fund for purchase out of that fund, $9,250. What we're purchasing, but it needs to transfer. $150 to pay the internet out of the commissioner's office. Actually, probably telephone more so than internet. We're taking from our contingency, plug it into telephone internet. And CYS, 2 contingency transfers, $5,000 and $2,000 respectively to client transportation and travel and training. So that is all she wrote. Unless there are any questions, comments, I'll take a motion to approve administrative transfers A through R.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, question on the motion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. No ordinance on the table for introduction or final action. Next Commissioners meeting Tuesday, December 14th at 10 a.m. in the Commissioners meeting room. We are hoping mercifully that one will be a hell of a lot shorter. There will be a Planning Commission meeting on Wednesday, December 8th at 12 o'clock noon in the Wilmington Borough Building. And there will be a Prison Board meeting on Wednesday, December 15th, 2021 at 12 o'clock noon in the Commissioners meeting room. Am I missing anything?
If you don't mind my adding to that.
Go for it.
Just so people can plan ahead. Based upon the way Christmas falls this year, the courthouse will be closed on Thursday, December 23, Friday, December 24, and Monday, December 27. And then because of the way in which New Year's Day falls on a Saturday, we will be closed on Friday, December 31. And then finally, on Monday, January 3, the building will be open. That will be the swearing-in ceremony more than likely in courtroom number 1. I don't know if they've established a time. It's usually in the morning. I'm assuming also that day, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but we'll have to have an annual salary board meeting that day. So,
Well, we might
Thank you.
do for salary board this year. I've been thinking about this a little bit. Instead of having the annual be the one where we do the increases for 2020, or cost of living adjustments for 2022, it might be advantageous to have one late December and just set them for budgetary
I
purposes.
think the law requires, but double check the county code. I think we're required to meet on the first month.
So I think, I'm gonna check with Jason on this, is something that we're still a while out, have to get around to. I think we're required to meet. I don't know if there are items that we're specifically required to vote on, if that makes sense. But that's, we got a while out there, but yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any additional public comments?
I noticed that Mercer County already had their salary board meeting.
It couldn't have been their annual
I
because
think it was. I
No,
saw
but-
something in the paper.
the county code requires that we meet on the first. Now, they may have done what Mr. Boyd is suggesting.
I don't know.
They may have implemented those things this year to take effect next year. But I don't think you can get around the fact that you do have to meet on the first Monday of the year.
I think it's the only required meeting, period,
Yeah.
that we need. There might be a required retirement board meeting, but to my knowledge, the only one I'm definitively sure of, we could go an entire year without having a commissioner meeting. It would be a horrible idea, but we could do it. I think, you have to, no matter if it's, gavel it into session and adjourn immediately, I think you still have to have one. All right, seeing no additional public comments, and anything additional from my colleagues?
No, sir.
Thank you. I will adjourn this marathon session of Lawrence County Board of Commissioners.
Sonny, great to see you.
Hey, I tripped over this little car walking in. It had wampum on the license plate. I hope I didn't hurt it.
Oh, you should have heard about the walking parade on Saturday.